everyone, here comes the long-awaited recap of the Bcup 2023 that I played in Paris on my way back from the St. Louis to Cairns Cup to Dubai. So it was a very busy schedule, and of course I want to thank everyone for subs and your attention. I know I haven't been streaming regularly, and I can't promise you that that I will be back to my regular stream schedule till at least September. I know, quite a lot of tournaments, but yeah, today I'm gonna talk about something special. I will after that play in a title Tuesday, because, well, I said to myself that if I don't play today, that I might not play again till September. So I decided, okay, to combine everything. So let's get going. And as I said, I'm gonna start talking about the Bcup 2023 that Kevin Bordy, aka Blitzstream, organized in Paris. That was my first ever, we can say, like, participation in such a e-sport event, and it was just great. Let's talk it and see it step by step. So every single video that Kevin made, I do recommend to check them out, because it was just like, these are wonderful videos. And now we're watching one of them. It's about the final stage, phase finale, as you can see the screen behind Kevin says. So before that, we needed to play a qualification tournament, and the best of 8 qualifiers qualified for the knockout stage. And the knockout stage consisted of matches, 2 games, 3+1, time control. And in terms, if the score was even after those 2 matches, 1-1, then that's the whole qualification bracket, the knockout bracket of the final. I'm gonna show you this bracket in a while, more detailed, and more time, so we can like evaluate. Yeah, and somehow it happens that 2 best rated players of Laurent Fressinet and Etienne Bacro met each other in the quarterfinal. So of course it was quite an unfortunate for 2 of them, because, well, just one managed to go. And I played against the son of Etienne Bacro, Alexandra Bacro, and here I am, just before the event. I was just really enjoying it very much. I was already happy to get to the top 8, because it's never obvious, right? You need to play a big, like, Swiss Open tournament with many participants, and one unfortunate result and the other one, and somehow you can just be out of this final stage. And as I mentioned, I just arrived. Actually, a few hours before the start of the event, I just arrived to Paris from the US, from playing in the Cairns Cup. Yeah, you might have seen my recap of this event. And I was passing by via Paris for 3 days, and it happened to be that Kevin was organizing this event. He invited me, and I said, why not take part in this event if I have a chance. So let's have a look at what happened in the final stage, the knockout stage. As I mentioned, here's a bracket, like the knockout bracket, with 8 qualifying players from the Swiss tournament, and with Laurent Fressinet and Etienne Bacro facing each other in already the quarter of the finals. And I'm playing, as you can see, against Alexandra Bacro. And well, the video is gonna focus mostly now on the games between Laurent and Etienne. I'll tell you about my match against Alexandra Bcup. First, I played with white pieces, and it was always the Petrov defense. Apparently, Alex uses this defense, and well, of course, in Blitz you're never in the mood for you're rarely in the mood for long theoretical discussions. So in this game I played with d3, and yeah, we got to the end game. It was quite a decent game, very solid from both sides. At the end I got a chance, I think, at some point I got a chance to get something more than a solid position, but I misplayed. First I believe my opponent misplayed, then I misplayed, and okay, a few inaccuracies, but overall somewhere here I think it would have been better to run with the king immediately, but of course I was afraid that black would capture and play knight c5, so that's why first I captured, but that's kind of inaccuracy, so instead I had to go ahead, play, and after if knight c5 and retreat my bishop, and somehow, okay, my king is better positioned, but it's always a question how to break through, and whether it's possible or not, I'm not sure. So in the game I did misplay at some point so badly that I had to, make accurate moves, and knight h1 is a terrible move. I mean, why to get your knight to the corner? After knight h1 I started suffering. Okay, I didn't suffer for a very long time, but still there were some unpleasant moments to survive, but I managed to do that. And I made a draw in the first game of my quarterfinal match, but in the second game I misplayed terribly at some point, and actually I was on the verge of losing. I was playing black. Okay, I opted for the Dutch defense, as you might know I do pretty often nowadays in Blitz, and well, I do like positions that appear here, but here I misplayed. I played knight b to d7, and apparently since white developed the knight to d2, I had already to attack the center somehow, probably by playing c5 or by bringing my knight to c6 and preparing e5. Knight to d7, somehow it didn't quite work. So around this part I misplayed very badly. It seems that the whole idea was playing c5 was much stronger, while I played d5, and then I didn't stop white's pawn. I had to play c5 at some point, stopping this pawn on c4, while I neglected the fact that white can actually play c5 at some point here, and after white managed to play c5, it was so much easier for white's pieces to coordinate and to play together, and well, already around here it's quite obvious that I'm suffering a lot, like bishop d6, and my rook has the only square to retreat, and the engine already gives up this exchange, but of course it's very hard to do in a practical game, and I needed to sacrifice a pawn, and somehow, barely I managed to survive, and even at the very end I was the one putting pressure, so white did misplay somewhere, missing a few winning possibilities, and little by little, although here I made the mistake again, I played rook b6, and here the position, the whole situation, the whole position holds because of the reason that if I play rook e to c1, I can protect my second rook by playing rook c7, and somehow I did play rook b6 here, and after rook e to c1 I have to give up this open file, and again my position became unpleasant. I'm a pawn down, right? I do have some compensation, the position is still quite solid, but it's always, I mean, unpleasant to play with the pawn down, and white has all those breakthroughs. So I was very happy, like, at the end, that I managed to survive and make a draw. And as you can see here, it was even, I mean, me pushing for a win. But okay, it never really left this equality mark, and we made the draw at the end. So the score after first two games were 1-1, was 1-1, and that means that we needed to proceed with the to play on. And the format of the event was that in case I will take it off a little bit so you can hear me better. I don't want to mute them. I hope that it's okay. And the format is that if the score is 1-1 after two games, then you go on and play one game till somebody wins. So first, like, I started with white, then in case of a draw, the other player gets white, and so we're alternating colors, but like it's like in football, there used to be this rule of golden goal, right? If somebody scores, if somebody wins, that's it. That's over. And that's exactly what happened. And let's see, let's a little bit promote. Yeah, so Laurent managed to win. And while, yeah, me, okay. I had to play one more game. So let's get going. Game number 3 of the quarterfinals. Yes, Laurent won and qualified for the semi-final. And it was... I still needed to win one game. It required just one game from this stage on, and I was playing white again, so of course it gives a certain advantage to the player who is starting this series with white pieces. But it was because due to the fact that I scored better in the Swiss tournament, in the qualification part. So it was again the better of defense. This time I opted for bishop d3. Actually, I already played against Alex in the qualification tournament. Bishop d3, and okay, it's still the plan is to play c3, d4, and we get this kind of symmetrical structure with a little better development for white, because you see those pieces are still there, and it's easier for me to develop. But the position is very, very solid. It's about equal. Of course, black has to be careful. Although I did manage to get quite a pleasant position, so I'm not sure where black misplayed. Certain point. I think the whole idea of transferring the knight to g6, that's still okay. But here black started getting back with the knight, and I think just a little bit too much. Probably black had to develop something like bishop, queen d6, bishop d7, then rook e8. Because knight f8, well, it's a little bit too slow. Again, maybe it doesn't, change the evaluation of the position a lot, but it makes white's life easier. So I put my knight to e5, and I played queen to e3. Although I could have, considered playing with my pawns, but okay, not yet. Knight 6 to d7, so black is trying to exchange as many pieces as possible, and that's of course the right plan to do, because if he manages to exchange everything, well, the position will be drawn. And that's exactly why black decides to play here queen to g5, again offering this queen's exchange. As I said, more exchanges will lead to a more solid position here. And that's exactly why I didn't want to exchange queens. I thought that I will have more chances if the queens stay on the board. And I retreated the queen. Rook 8, knight f3, queen d2, playing pretty fast, but I did get not only like some slight positional advantage, but also quite a serious time advantage, quite a serious time pressure. Okay, just in case, putting pressure over here. G6, and when your opponent makes this move, it means that his pawn structure is a little bit weakened, so I can try to use this fact. And as you can see, this pressure on the time, 2:21 versus 1:30, it's a big time difference. It's a big time difference. G4, finally, well, I need to go forward, right? If I want to win, I need to push pressure on my opponent, and G4, G5 seems it's quite a logical plan. 97, G5, H5, Rook E1. So I was, of course, very, very happy. Quite a solid position, maybe not very easy to break through, because, well, black holds it here. Knight to b6, a little bit far away from the king side, it seems. So, just in case I played b3, I didn't have to. I think I could have played queen f4 straight away. Okay, I played b3, queen e7, knight e5, c5. Well, my only, well, the most important thing, I think, in this game for the moment, that I play so much faster than my opponent. Maybe my moves are not very precise. Maybe there are, well, for sure there are stronger moves than the ones that I make, but I make them so fast. And my opponent is starting to get very low on time. And when you get low on time, it's so hard to, you know, to hold those slightly unpleasant positions. Knight e4, creating those little traps. Of course, my opponent, doesn't blunder. Queen to d6, protecting the pawn on d6. And again, the question is how to get through. For the moment, I'm just waiting. Queen to e3, knight f8. I have, well, almost 2 minutes. 1 minute 50, and queen g3, well, another attempt to trap my opponent. Queen b8, he is doing everything well. Rook to e5, well, nothing like special, not a particular, you know, threat, but just trying to improve, trying to create small problems for my opponent every single move. I cannot say that I find a plan. Just really shuffling my pieces around. Well, for the moment, my bishop on c2 is unprotected, so rook e2, protected. Having in mind this knight takes d5, and before it wasn't working because my rook on g3 was hanging. Now it's also not a threat right away, and that's exactly why my opponent plays a5, because if I capture on d5, he's gonna capture and my rook is gonna be unprotected. That's why I try to protect it. My opponent replies with queen c3, putting pressure onto my pawn on d4, queen f2, protecting this pawn. Knight d5 is still a very nice idea, but well, if you look at the time, it's already not that significant, right? It's 56 seconds versus 15 seconds, so I'm starting to get lower on time as well, and that's of course a big achievement for my opponent. Bishop f1, queen c6, and here, yeah, he started, unfortunately for him, he didn't find the right way to play. Queen e3, and here comes the blunder, long-awaited blunder, I must say. Queen e5, and knight takes d5, and there is no way actually to protect from this checkmate, or if the king goes to j8, knight e7, yeah, and here comes the checkmate. So I did manage to win, although, as I say, it was quite a hard match. Yeah, we can see that Alex is very, very disappointed. Okay, some of my French skills now.
Alexandra, je te donne le micro. Tu vis en France d'ailleurs, Alexandra.
Oui.
Tu vis en France.
À côté de toi.
À côté de chez moi. Tu vis pas loin de chez moi.
Non, pas du tout.
Mais donc, mais qu'est-ce que t'as mangé, Alexandra, dans l'avion?
Je savais maintenant. Et ça commence d'être dur. Hein.
Ça commence d'être dur, mais t'es qualifié en demi-finale et tu fais des parties assez incroyables, là encore.
J'attends mon mari, là.
T'attends ton mari, ouais. En finale.
Oui, quand même, on doit travailler un petit peu.
Tu dois travailler, mais c'est incroyable, toujours avec ton style caractéristique, toujours agressif, toujours les coups les plus dynamiques, des petits pièges à gauche, à droite. Je déteste jouer contre toi et je comprends pourquoi. Ouais. C'est plus marrant que de commenter que de jouer.
Ok, j'espère.
J'espère. Non mais écoute, bravo à toi, repose-toi bien et bonne chance à ton mari du coup pour les autres quarts de finale et on se retrouve pour la demi contre Laurent. Merci à toi. Merci. Applaudissements pour Alexandra, mesdames et messieurs. Ah, je suis quand même très étonné parce que je vois un tromboniste dans le...
Okay, so that was a short interview. A short interview in French. And that was a time for my husband to play. Yes, and because he was one of the top 8 qualifiers. And he qualified also for the quarters. So he played there against Anna Maya. You must know her very well. It was a very convincing win, and I let him do his recap if he feels like it. And I'm gonna focus in this video on my road to the final. So my husband won against Anna Maya, just showing you some of his games. Exactly. Thank you, Dirk. Anna Maya did amazingly well because she was also able to qualify to this top 8 stage. It's so hard to do. Yes, we'll be waiting for Pavel's recap, exactly. So Anna Maya managed to qualify for this top 8 and well, unfortunately for her, she did lose to my husband, but it was a very great tournament for her nevertheless. And okay, Pavel managed to win, and then I needed to face Laurent Fressinet in the semi-final, in the first semi-final. And of course, Laurent Fressinet is a very, very strong player. He was one of Magnus Carlsen's seconds. And actually yesterday he won against Vladimir Kramnik in some of these divisions of online rapid chess events that's taking place right now. And yeah, I'm telling the story about how we met for the first time with Laurent. We played with him first games, well, I was mistaken by a few years, but the very first time that I played against Laurent, it was in 1999 in Paris. Yeah, because they were celebrating 70 years, I believe, for some 70 years, 75 years of FIDE, and Laurent was there. I was, I think they're giving a simul or something like that, and so we played some blitz together, and I was having a very hard time during those games. And yeah, here we go. This semi-final, definitely something to remember for me, because we played so many games. Okay, and let's start with the first one. I was playing black. Unfortunately, it's always a spoiler. It does spoil a result, so I'm sorry about that. Oh, it happened to my video. Okay. Laurent started with white this time. Okay, yeah, the public was there. It was amazing. They were shouting and supporting the players. Okay, some technical stuff, and here we go. And you see us wearing headphones because we were actually like right in this hall where the commentators and the public was, and okay, d4, knight f6. Okay, let me try to, I want to see what's going on to be able to comment alone. Yeah, so it was some kind of the Vienna variations that transposed to the Queen's Gambit accepted. b6, well, of course, c5 is the most common way here. b6 is a more, okay, way pretending that black wants more than equality, but of course it's all about the center. Here it's all about preparing for this e4 move that white is ready to do, so black has to somehow prepare the counterplay, either by like playing c5 or preparing e5, but because you just don't want to allow your opponent to play e4, e5, push your knight away, and then, you know, sacrifice something and win the game. So I didn't play c5, I played knight b2, d7, e4, e5, stopping white's pawn on e4, bishop g5, putting the pressure onto this knight, pinning is always annoying, h6, hoping for white to exchange the knight, but of course the knight was not exchanged. Black just simply retreated the bishop, but okay, I spent some time, like, okay, bishop h4 almost instantly, and here I made the mistake. I think I had to continue, you know, I had to continue putting pressure. Thank you so much for the raid. I'm here doing a recap of my victorious Bcup 2023, playing Laurent Fressinet in the semi-final. So I think e takes d4, slightly inaccurate. Probably it would have been better just to keep the pressure, you know, to play rook e8 and wait and see what white is gonna do. Instead, when I captured, white captured, it's again a question of, you know, this pin and a possibility to play e5 at certain point, and that all makes the position a little bit harder for black to play the knight heading to f5. So that's why, I mean, I decided to capture on c3 and to play knight e5, but it still doesn't solve like all black's problems, right? You always have to keep an eye on this f4, e5 push, and then knight f5 is always in the air, so quite a tough position to play in a blitz game. And knight f5 was possible, by the way, straight away, but my opponent decided to play f3 instead, and I played knight to g6, heading to f4, but it seems to be inaccurate. Again, it's so tempting, you know, to attack this bishop, to push it away. My opponent played bishop f2, knight f4, and it felt for a moment that I was doing okay, but something went wrong at the very end. Okay, rook f2, d8, still better for white, but queen c4, but Laurent is playing much faster, and here I think I made a mistake. I had to double my rooks. I had to play rook d7 and rook d8. I had to try to put them on the d file. Instead, I made this strange looking move. For some reason, I played queen to d7. Well, of course, I stopped knight a5 like immediately, but my opponent instead, he protected the rook on d1, and now my queen is on d7, so it means that I have to spend one more move to move it away from the d file, and I did play queen to e8, but in that case white has some time again to put pressure on this knight, to pin this knight once again. Okay, still holding, still okay, but now getting lower in time, and queen to e5 I played, protecting my knight on f6. Of course, it's very hard to resist now with white not to attack the queen. Queen to c5, queen to e1. Laurent played, and I started. My plan was doubling the rooks, which seems to be a great plan. Again, it was possible to do a few moves ago, but I finally found found it right here. Bishop f2. Hard to play with the queen like under this extra ring, and I played queen to c4, knight f5, rook a to d8. Okay, maybe not the most precise. Rook takes d1, and yes, here he captured and played bishop d4, putting a lot of pressure on the king side, and it just was getting so hard. It was just very hard to defend, but okay, I was trying to do my best. I was able to create some counterplay. Yes, I did need to give up a pawn, but you see I played c5. I pushed his bishop away, and I won back the pawn. White's position is still better, but now he needs to play more precisely. Unfortunately, somewhere here I misplayed. I think king g8 was a serious mistake. I had to ignore and just capture on a4, although it's so hard to do. Queen h5, okay, queen e6, queen to g4. Well, Laurent just played very well this game, and I did, I did stumble at some point. Maybe it was still, yeah, king g8 now would have been more precise, but again, it's so hard to understand why. And a5, yeah, a5 is a final blunder because of rook e1. I had to prepare for this rook e1, probably by playing queen e2, rook d1, because after a5, it's a game over. It's a very nice game by Laurent, but I also was pretty happy with the way I played, because yeah, I got an unpleasant position, but I was like trying very hard. Okay, and now I was in a must-win situation. I had to win. I had to win in order to go on, in order to play on. And well, generally, it's not that easy to win, but to win when you're required to, it's even probably harder. So that was the Italian, and I opted for a very sharp line with bishop g5. A very tense position with black moving his pawns often to g5, h5, and further on, and white trying to put pressure on the queen side. But in this particular game, I didn't castle long immediately. I played queen to e2 first, so I made some waiting moves at first, at the beginning. Probably not the most precise ones, but okay, possible. g5 attacking the bishop to g3, and here black played bishop to e6, offering the exchange of these bishops, and I played b4. As I said, white's plan is often connected with putting pressure on the queen side, pushing the pawns forward, trying to open up the queen side and get via the a file to the black camp. Knight to d8. Well, here I decided that since I played b4, of course, I cannot castle long, or it rather seems quite dubious, so that's why after some thought I decided to castle short. And my opponent also decided to castle short here, although he didn't have to. Of course, he could have, played on with the king on e8, putting like more pressure on the king side, playing knight h5, or capturing on c4 and playing knight e6 first. Because when he castled, well, that means that he's no longer playing for attack, right? He doesn't want to put pressure on the king side. And I decided to play rook f2e1, although I could have started with d4, and I played d4. And of course I was pretty happy about the position, because I did manage to prepare and play d4. I did manage to get some space with my pawn on the queen side, and mostly my opponent didn't, go for some kind of direct attack versus my king. f6. But of course the position is still very solid, it's close, you see that all pawns and all pieces are present, and actually that's just the first exchange of the game. Like all 16 pawns are still on the board. Probably queen c4 is not the precise way to play. It would have been better to put the knight there and probably try to transfer it to f5. Maybe playing queen d3, knight c4 would have been a better plan, but okay. It's a blitz game after all, right? It's very hard to to criticize my play, because it's still quite intuitively I try to do what I can. d5 the computer doesn't like at all because it opens up black's bishop, but after knight f4 it's still okay. So black had to keep the knight on the board, probably by playing knight c5, because after knight f4 suddenly I capture here. Yes, the g file opens, but in fact it's very hard to create something special via this e file, because my king is, the position of the king supported by these two knights is quite solid. Knight f5, you see that the knight is quite annoying, not letting the queen get to g7, and here comes the second knight. So if he plays queen g6, I always have this knight h4 idea. Black trying to exchange the knights. King goes to f1. Yeah, the computer doesn't like this at all, saying that black can capture, play queen g6, and then sacrifice on f2. But luckily for me, Laurent didn't find these consequences of moves, and he played king h7. That gave me time to retreat my knight and play knight 3 to h4. So now my knights control both squares on the g file. a5, rook a to b1. Well, Laurent's idea was just to close the position, try to close it and believe in the fact that it's gonna be just difficult to break through. But in fact, white has a very strong plan of improving the position, and this plan is connected with bringing the rook to the third rank and then trying to break through somewhere on the king side. Okay, I was still considering b6, and well, for the moment I'm just moving my pieces, trying to improve the position to its maximum. But after queen to g6, that was like required to get back to the original plan and say that okay, the only possibility to break through in this position, and I need to win this game in order to stay in the tournament, is to play g3. And that's why I play g3. And it starts to look pretty unpleasant for black, but I do get carried away with one particular idea of moving my king to a2. And that it was a mistake and it was a blunder, but luckily for me, even after this blunder, my position is winning. Actually, b6, it's very strong here. Rook f1, I think that Laurent was so happy, he managed to find this nice tactic, but in fact it just helped me to get to open the files and to continue fighting. Okay, still very hard to win this game. I did have some possibilities. Here I had to take with the knight. I don't know why I didn't consider it. I decided to sacrifice a rook, but you see that we're playing on seconds, so it's okay. I won't be diving into analyzing very deeply. Queen e2, just simple. Of course, there are a lot of inaccuracies and blunders happening, but again, we're playing on seconds. And I'm getting closer to winning this on demand. It was okay, some possibilities for both sides, a few blunders, and a completely winning position for me. But it's so hard to convert it into a full point. And okay, it's almost there. It feels as I should be checkmating. But h6 is a nice move. But, rook c7. Laurent keeps, resisting. He keeps finding possibilities to create some counter threats. Okay, but so far so good. Queen e6 was winning, but it's so hard to calculate. And this one is good enough, but I make a blunder at the end. I make a blunder, and Laurent could have given me perpetual check. Okay, so far so good. You know, everything is just perfect. Queen takes e5. Okay, fine enough. Fine enough, but there are some checks. And I say to myself, okay, the king can get away. The king can get away. And here comes a mistake. Here comes a mistake. King e6. King e6. Queen e8. And here king d6. A terrible, terrible, terrible mistake. Because, well, king f6 I think is the final mistake. Because, like, it was supposed to be, like, there was some kind of perpetual, but in fact, yeah, I managed to get away. And after a few more terrible nerve-wracking moments, I managed to win on demand, and thus the match continued. Yeah, that was a very tense game, and of course very hard to understand what was going on seconds. I was very happy, of course, but we needed to carry on. I think I won't be showing two next games, even though they were very intense and very interesting, but you can watch them, like, if you want to, in one of Kevin's videos on YouTube. I'm gonna focus just on the final one, the decisive one, because there was two very hard fought draws. I made one draw with black, then one draw with white, and the decisive fifth game of our semi-final I'm gonna show you in a moment. So the first one, I think that's exactly, is it? No. It's the third game. Okay, and then let's see. Okay, here we go. That was the game number 4, which also ended in a draw. I had some chances, but at the end it was a draw. Meaning that I had to play with black pieces again. With black pieces again. Yeah, and we agreed on a draw. Right. And the decisive game, as I said, game number 5. It was getting hot, yeah, in the playing hall, on the board. And here we go. Game number 5. I repeated the Dutch defense. Knight c3, bishop g5. Yes, Laurent opted for this line, but somehow I like it. I mean, the computer, yeah, evaluates it, gives a very big plus for white in this line. But somehow the position is messy, and Laurent didn't really play well. Knight f3 he played. Bishop e6, yeah, I develop quite weirdly my pieces, but what to do if you put pawns like in front of them, kind of need to be creative. And b to d7, knight e2, well, so far so good, g6, and I think white's plan, a good white's plan, might have been connected with the h pawn push. Instead, Laurent played knight e5, but it's not that clear. I mean, the structure changes, of course, and the pawn advances to e6 after I take on e5. But, okay, it does advance to e6, but it's not supported by any pawns there, right? It's supported only by the knight on f4, and probably Laurent was just hoping that because of this diagonal and of the fact that my bishop is not on g7 yet, he might like tactically exploit all those weaknesses, and he relied on this bishop takes f5 sacrifice that he played in the game. Very nice sacrifice, but unfortunately for white it doesn't quite work. And yes, Dutch defense is a very dubious in a way opening, but yeah, somehow you can't really crack it right away. And bishop takes f5 is a mistake, a very tempting one though. So white was hoping to attack my knight, and after knight f6 was hoping to capture, to give a check, probably play knight g6. But when the position actually appeared on the board, it became clear that it's not that clear at all. It's not that clear at all, because after knight f6, well, I do spend some time, but I need to retreat my knight to f6 to protect the h5 square. And if white captures and plays queen h5, I play king to e7, of course, the only move. And after knight g6, I can grab the knight, I give this rook back, but I have two strong bishops for this rook. I was going to take on e6, and I have a very nice position. So that's why Laurent decided to play for the initiative. Not okay, he has some initiative, but a bishop is a bishop, right? I have an extra bishop, some tension around my king being in the center, and those pieces are not developed, but it's a pair of two bishops, and one of them is an extra one. So it all like indicates that if I play precisely and manage not to blunder anything, I might be the one playing for a win. So right now my plan is somehow to stabilize my position, to get my king into safety. Well, right now it's not about the king, I'm chasing white's queen. I'm trying, of course, to exchange the queens. Queen g3, threatening to play queen c7, protecting the square on c7. Thank you so much for the raid. Is it froze? Really? No. Okay. And it was very hard to understand what was going on. So I was just, on the verge of just making moves, move by move, trying not to blunder anything. Of course, there were like more precise ways for black to play, but good enough. I mean, hard, again, it's very hard to find perfect moves when playing on seconds with less than a minute in a very tense match, in a very tense blitz match. Queen to f2, d takes e4 bravely, accepting taking this pawn, and probably Laurent was happy that actually by taking this pawn I kind of let my opponent, I just open up the e-file, but somehow I managed, to find this only moves when required and be precise enough and not blunder anything. And let's see what happened at the very end. Laurent is pushing on time. It's definitely, you see, I have 25 seconds. He has more than a minute, but I have more pieces on the board, which definitely helps. And I do have a very strong plan of putting my bishop to g7, queen to f6, creating this battery, and just checkmating my opponent. Okay, e takes d3 was possible, but of course I didn't quite consider this move on second. As I said, I had a plan. Queen takes f7 was very, very surprising to see. And here, instead of queen f6, for some reason, I decided to capture the knight, because I saw that after rook e1, I have d takes c2, and I can cover my queen. And then rook takes g2, bishop g6. I have two extra pieces now, and I said to myself that it should be good enough. Should be good enough. Okay, one more check. Rook d2, and yes, 2 extra pieces, and yeah, blunder comes. Rook d8. Here comes the victory. Managed to win it.
Gros match. Incroyable, mais le courage. On va aller lui parler.
Yep. I'm quite tired.
Alexandra. La 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 la. Alexandra.
The public was amazing.
Cha la 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 la. Les femmes. Alexandra. Cha la 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 la. Alexandra. Quel match. Quel match à vous deux.
Alors, j'ai tout fait pour jouer contre mon mari. J'ai tout fait. Alors c'est à lui maintenant.
Non, salut, mais quel spectacle, Laurent et Alexandra, quel match vous nous avez offert. C'était magnifique, franchement, c'était une passe d'armes incroyable.
Oui, pas mal.
Non, mais vraiment, c'était
Okay.
serré, il y avait des
Well, I'm saying that actually I made everything that was in my power to play against my husband. So I was really rooting to play this final match against Pavel, and I was getting tired, but of course I was so happy, to win against Laurent in a match, even in a blitz match. It's so hard, and he was definitely the favorite of this match, but okay. Luck was on my side because I managed to save a few very, very hard games, and well, I won at the end just because Laurent, pushed so hard, and he tried to win like brilliantly with sacrificing a piece, but just the sacrifice didn't quite work, and yeah, that was nice. That was nice to win that game, and since my husband did win in his semifinal, well, we had it. We had it. A family final. And I'm not going to commentate and to look at all 3 games that actually, because at the final stage was the best of 4. So in order to win, we played 4 games. I mean, in order to win, you needed to get 2.5 points to win this final match. And I was very lucky. Because in the first game, I will just show you the key moments of this match. Pavel was very generous to me. In the first game, it was also the better of defense. Pavel had to sacrifice. Here, the position is, it's about equal, but I dared to play g4. And here, of course, black had to sacrifice. And of course, Pavel considered this move, but somehow decided that he doesn't really have anything special. But, well, apparently, after queen, for example, d5, I do need to give this knight away, because if I play king to g2, there is rook a to e8, and that's probably what Pavel missed. And in case I take here, it's very important to take with the bishop, and well, white again apparently is in trouble, but of course black has to be careful. And well, it's just just everything is under control, and one of the exemplary line that might have happened after if black would take on g4, but I would be in a lot of trouble, to put it mildly, if Pavel would sacrifice. And in the second game, I was also completely lost. I did misplay somewhere, and in this position, well, not maybe completely lost, but worse, the position was terrible. But apparently d5, so tempting, push forward is a wrong move. After that, it's just equality. although it's very hard to believe, and white had to play queen h3 to put all those threats like rook takes f6, knight d7, knight f7, d5 on the board, and it's very hard to play this position with white. And as I said, instead, where's this? It froze again. Yeah, instead Pavel did push for d5, which is again quite tempting. Okay, let's see. He did push d5, and luckily somehow I do hold the equality. I do hold the equality over there, and Pavel blundered at the end. He blundered. Instead of making a draw, he was still probably somewhere pushing for a win. And yeah, somehow let me give a few checks. Let me give a few checks. Well, d4, of course, pushing forward. If you have a chance, the position is still equal. The position is still equal, but yeah, he did. Okay, let me. I think it's still equal till here. Maybe king f2 was a mistake. Yeah, and he completely blundered bishop b4, and he resigned, although he could continue with knight c3. Yeah, you see me like looking at Pavel's. I say, why do you resign? Why did you resign? Why didn't you play queen knight to c3? And he says, okay, there is like a check or check. But I said, yeah, but I could have continued, you know. And okay, here comes the final. Here comes the final third game. Yeah, you never know. But I do believe that Pavel was just too generous, you know. He decided to keep my spirits high and to make me happy. And that's why he let me winning. But actually the final game was a very interesting game. Yes, I required only a draw, but of course I didn't play for a draw, right? Who plays for a draw in this kind of situation? I was playing white, and let's see what happened. Let's see what happened. So some alapin that I played. I played many games with this line, even though the computer might think it's about equal, but I think it's so much easier to play for white in a blitz game. Although I did misplay here again. Sometimes I do. It's so surprising for me to, play so many games and still make the same mistakes over and over and over. Yeah. Good memory really helps you to avoid such, but unfortunately, not all players have such a great memory. Anyway, okay, queen to d8. One of the main moves, capturing the pawn on d4, because if black takes, the bishop is so much more important here than the pawn. I played rook to e1. Okay, possible, but I think knight to f3 is more precise. And yeah, I do want to play knight f3, but unfortunately my bishop is not protected anymore in that case, and that's why I needed to make one more quiet move. But rook e8 is a very nice move, preparing e5 at some point. And here I had to play bishop b3, it seems, just moving the bishop away from this queen's pressure. Instead I played knight to f3, and Pavel replied with e5, a very strong move. Again, here I had to move the bishop away, and then if black takes, take on e8, bishop h6 ideas. There were other moves such as knight e5, rook takes e5, bishop takes f7, like giving up 2 pieces for rook and 2 pawns, which was also pretty interesting. But I fought for another very tempting idea, just to give up my queen. Who cares about queens, right? So I played knight to g5. I knew that it was some kind of a bluff. It looked like it shouldn't work. It looked like it was just too much to be true. But, okay, I was leading 2-0, and I was, not really risking anything, even if I lose. I mean, nothing bad. Okay, Pavel did spend a lot of time trying to figure out my intention and my idea, and well, he did capture the knight after all. Of course, I went all in. I sacrificed my queen, bishop to f8. Well, I grabbed the pawn on f7 with a check. Bishop takes f7. Also, I did spend some time considering this move. Yes, and well, I do have some initiative, but unfortunately Pavel was just playing very well. Well, for the moment, after bishop takes f7, of course, black has the only move, king to g7, but my whole idea was connected with bishop e6, and the fact that the bishop is under attack and I'm threatening to take on c8. For example, here I want to take on c8 and give a fork. But again, unfortunately for me, black can play knight to d7. And it's a very, very precise way to develop your knight and to protect the bishop. And even though it seems that there are, some ideas connected with knight e6, but the bishop is blocking the square and I don't have time to retreat it, because if I move away, then knight is gonna jump to c5 and take everything under control. But yeah, I did find a very nice way to continue putting pressure. Knight f7 with the threat to play bishop h6, and Pavel finds a very nice, very precise, and I think a very difficult move to make, which is g5. I was surprised to see it, but it's very strong. It's just very strong, because black sacrifices a pawn, and it seems that I capture it and I still have this bishop h6 check. But in fact, the reason behind this pawn sacrifice was to free this square for the king and to be able to play after bishop h6 king to g6, and that's exactly what happened in the game. Well, knight c5 was played, bishop h6 was played, also kind of only move, and well, I captured on f8. I should try to get some material back. After all, a queen is quite a heavy piece, so I need to back up in material a little bit. Well, knight takes c6 is another precise way. Well, so far Pavel is playing just perfectly. And I do try, to keep the pressure going. Weird looking check, king on f6, I captured on d4. All those pieces are still undeveloped and Pavel is running very low on time. So he decides to to get into this endgame with an extra bishop. But okay, I have 3 pawns for the bishop, and here was a very nice moment. Bishop d7, and I made the blunder, rook c7, and rook c8 wins here, because if I capture, there is king e6 and rook c1. Luckily for me, Pavel played king e6, and this position is already closer to a draw, because yes, black has an extra bishop, but I have 3 pawns, and as we know, rook and a bishop versus rook is a theoretically drawn position, and actually it's so much harder to play against passed pawns for the moment. We're still very far away from this rook and bishop versus rook endgame. So as you can see, I try to get as many pawns as I can. I captured the pawn on h5, and now I understand that black's plan is to get my pawn on a5 and keep pushing his pawn, and that's why I just simply push my pawns up. And that's my plan. And yeah, well, Pavel, he blundered a piece, and yep, rook g6 just wins the game. That was a very tense and very hard fought game. Pavel played well. I mean, I cannot say that I played well, but yeah, I was a little bit I was just luckier. Yeah, but the most important fact was that we kind of played against each other. Yes. Okay, that's a big check. You see, the first prize was 1,000 euros. And yeah, so very, very, very. Yeah, but that was an amazing tournament. Really, the atmosphere, the whole event, like it's not always only about games. It's about just enjoying this moment, this tournament, that atmosphere, and I was so in the mood, and I was so enjoying it that yeah, just victories kept coming, and of course I want to thank Kevin so much for this just amazing event. I'm looking forward to the next edition, and I just want to see more of such tournaments in the future. For example, Title Tuesday, hybrid Title Tuesday, and yeah, very happy to take part, to be part of it, and to win it. Yes, so some selfie with the public, the spectators, they were amazing. The commentators, the players, I mean, just the whole organization team behind the scene working to make sure that, you know, everything is very smooth. It was really a great event, great event, and I will keep those memories forever, and I hope that I managed, you know, to share all that atmosphere with my games in my short recap, as usual, a little bit over than an hour recap. Yes, and the final word was merci. Again, what else to say, right? What else to say? Yes, troisième édition. On va l'attendre. Passionnément. Okay, phase finale. Okay, that's it. Exactly. Yes, that's it. So, well, that's it. And I did manage to, oops, some new video. Okay. I did manage to record this recap, and now I'm ready to go on and play Title Tuesday. Also, I'm pretty tired. This recap was pretty tense, and in the morning, as you may have seen, I was commentating the 5th game of the World Women's Championship. But okay, again, why not have fun and play some more games? So if you're watching me on Twitch, it's live, it's being broadcasted live, and it means that Title Tuesday is about to get started. And if you're watching this recap on YouTube, well, just as always, please press like, leave a comment. Well, you know the drill, you know this algorithm, that's how they work, and that's why like hosts, they always remind about like putting those likes and pressing these buttons and subscribing and leaving a comment, because well, more people watch those recaps, more people will watch it. Somehow it works. Anyway, let's keep going. I will make a short pause for my Twitch, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes, so stay tuned.